Hi, my name is Evgeny, I'm a 3D artist. Today we'll look at these two materials. It's some kind of fabric and something like marmalade. And I'm not saying something like that are some ultra complex or breathtaking materials. The point is that these strange materials were made from specular material that may not be so obvious to beginners or even slightly more advanced guys. Yes, you can do fabric from specular materials. I can promise that it will be physical correct. However, it still works quite good because subsurface scattering from specular material, in my opinion, most natural. Let's start with the fabric. I have a ready mesh. You can look how to make this mesh here, for example. You'll need literally 5 minutes. Also, I'll use this texture. Link to polygon.com will be in the description. Great site. You can download this texture from there and find many others. Set filter on free. There's a lot of interesting stuff I recommend. First of all, change the render to a path tracing to see subsurface scattering correct. Create material, apply to mesh. Change type of the material to specular. Call image node and load diffuse map. Diffuse map like to transmission. Cool. Transmission will be something like diffuse channel, it will show us texture in the light. Then I want to increase the roughness, let's say to 0.5 to diffuse the light, and decrease the reflection maybe by 0.1 so that the reflection don't hurt our eyes that much. I will also decrease the index to 1.1 to further nerf the reflections. It's an intuitive choice, feel free to experiment. Now I want to use the transform to scale down the texture. Then duplicate twice image node and plug to the normals and bump. We haven't bumped itself here, but we can use displacement, it will be okay. Synchronize, transform maps and connect in relevant channels. And the most interesting thing, we need subsurface scattering. Open medium, go to scattering medium, we need absorption and scattering. Plug the same diffuse map to absorption. And scattering we'll use as a force where we want to affect more or less. For that, we need a grayscale map. We can plug displacement that we use in bump channel. Now we can add a light source under the mesh and move it around. We see subsurface scattering, awesome. If you think that too much light is passing through, you can increase the density in scattering node, or for example you can add color correction in the way to transmission channel and increase gamma. The same can be done if it seems to you that the light on the contrary is not passing through. By the same principle I made this render from a picture taken on a phone. In fact, I think there's some more consistent or more correct way to make such material, for example through a universal. But it seems to me that this method is rather curious. Now about our marmalade or something like that. The difference is that we have no texture here, and therefore why we'll be doing slightly different actions. So now we will use mesh like that. I think I don't need to explain how it was done since even have already done it. Create material, apply it to the mesh and open node editor. The first thing is choosing type of the material, specular. Increase roughness to say 0.2 and decrease reflection to 0.4 for the same reasons as in the first material. It's an intuitive choice again, so now we choose color through RGB spectrum. I will choose something like this orange. Plug in. The diffusion channel will again be replaced by transmission. Now I move closer and do bump, classic little noise. Add noise node, plug it to bump, use a transform and greatly reduce. Please note that noise value need to be turned locally. You will need different value depending on the mesh size. Done. Great. I'll plug this noise through the multiply plus float group to soften the effect. Think something like 0.2 will do. Well, for desert, subsurface scattering again, go to medium, use scattering medium. In absorption, I'll plug the same RGB spectrum and in scattering some similar color, maybe more yellowish. Cool, let's add some light and see the result. And don't forget density. We can duplicate model and materials and replace colors, let it be green and the second red. It turned out pretty cute, nice. We can also make a rubber similar to what we have on the headphones. We also need to create a material, choose specular, and now set roughness to 0.1 and it's done. I think in the same way you can do many more interesting things, and what I show you can refine. It's interesting way to create picture skew materials. We need specular not only for glass or water. In fact, almost everywhere where there's some sort of subsurface scattering, you can create it through specular material and it will look quite natural. Of course, the disadvantages are huge render times. Subsurface scattering by definition only work in path tracing and it's obviously slower. However, the materials are quite curious. That's all for now, hope I was useful, peace out.